You know, in the Bible, when God says something once, it's probably important that you take notice. If he says it twice, probably important that you read it a couple of times. If he says it over and over and over again, he's probably trying to get a point made. Kind of like you mothers who've yelled at your children and asked that gorgeous, wonderful, divine question, "How many times do I have to tell you this?" Well, the answer is about 1,000,000 times a day for the rest of your life. Well, so it is also with God's Word. If you see something over and over again happening, you ought to at least question why. Why do we have to know that? Now, let's face it, Jesus called 12 guys, right? We all know that. He went down, got a couple of fishermen, he got a couple of zealots, he got a couple of tax guys. I mean, it was a collection of really kind of raunchy fellas, basically. But why do we have to know that? Is it just character development? Why do we have to know? Jesus went down, he was trying to teach the people, they were everywhere, so he saw a couple of empty boats. He said, "Hey, put offshore for a little bit and I'll speak to them from the shore." That was a good idea. That was just a logistical statement. I can teach more from the boat than the few, everybody crushing around me. But then he did the whole fish thing. And seeing the miracle, Peter fell down at his feet and said, "Depart from me, Lord. I am not who you want to choose. I'm a nasty." He was a deplorable. He was a nasty guy. And he admitted it. He fell down and said, "Lord, depart from me." And God said, "You're not getting off that easy, big boy. I'm going to make you're going to be the first one I'm going to choose. In fact, you're going to be the best fisher of men that the world has ever seen." And they came back. Now listen, these guys worked hard all night. They caught nothing. So they weren't going to eat that day. They weren't going to get paid that day. They weren't going to make any money that day. Total failure. And yet, because Jesus said, "Just put out a little ways, throw the nets in." "Oh, I don't want to do that. You don't want to do that." "But because you ask, I'll just lower the nets." That's a lot of trouble, people. You ever been net fishing? And they filled 2 boats to almost sinking. And they brought it to the shore. You think these guys would be going, "Woohoo, woohoo." They're going to make a bundle. Off to Walmart tomorrow, guys, all of us. They all leave it. I'm sure old man Zebedee loved it. Whoa, 2 boats and these guys are out of town. And they left it and walked away and followed Jesus. Question, what would cause them to do that? That's like if your boss gave you a $100,000 bonus and you set the check down and said, "I'm going to follow him." How many would do that? Be honest. No, you wouldn't. Nobody would. So the question is, why do we know that? And the fact of the matter is, all 4 Gospels repeat it. All 4 Gospel authors. Make sure we know about these guys leaving everything and following Jesus. Why? What is it about human nature or divine character, I'm not sure, that causes that? To that extent, to that degree. I don't have an answer. Do you have an answer? I thought about it all week long. Who would do that? Well, I'm going to tell you a story. This is a true story, not one of the Channer stories that I make up. It was 2012. The Packers were set to play the New York Giants at Lambeau Field there in Green Bay for the NFC Championship. Y'all remember that? Nobody remembers that. But that night, before the game, a huge nor'easter swept out of Canada. A nor'easter's a big giant blizzard. They call them polar vortexes now. God, I should have been in television. I can make up stuff like that. Anyway, a huge nor'easter swept out of Canada, clobbered Green Bay, and left about 5.5 feet of snow on everything. And they went out to the field. The snow was already up to the level of the first set of chairs. And they thought, oh my gosh, we can't play in this mess. It'll take us 3 days to get all that snow off the field. So they let the coach go on television, literally go on television and appeal to the masses there in Green Bay. They said, if y'all want to see a game this afternoon, we got to get that field cleared, and we're going to need about 200 to 400 guys with shovels out there right now. We only have one little tractor, and it's not going to be able to do much. So if you got a shovel and want to clear that field, I need 200 to 400 guys. Now this is early in the morning, first thing, on a Sunday, freezing cold. Everything's snowed in. And he expected, well, we'll see if anybody cares about this game or not. When Coach got to the field, he found 2,253 people there with shovels in their hand, ready to go. 2,200. They needed 200 to 400. They had that field clear in about 2 hours. And the game went on as scheduled. 2,253 people showed up with shovels. Ace must have had a sellout of shovels. Toilet paper and shovels. Couldn't find one. What would make them do that? My thinking is there's some love involved there somewhere. Maybe love of the game. Maybe pride of the city. Maybe just wanting to be involved in something unique. Maybe all of the above. Just like Jesus said, I'm going to choose you first, Peter. Simon, at the time, he'll change to Peter. And your brothers are going to come, and I'm going to make you fishers of men. And they dropped everything and started walking away with it. Jesus put out the call and said, I got a job to do, and I'm going to need at least a couple of guys to help me. What do you think? You know, we always talk about the call of the Lord. Oh, I was called to go to seminary. In fact, when Kurt and I went to seminary, one of the first things we had to do is tell them about our call. Why do you want to be here? Why do you want to leave everything you know, everything you have, everything you're safe with, and come and start this new journey into the seminary, which is a long and arduous journey, let me tell you. And they want to know that before they let us in. Do you remember that, Kurt?
Too well.
Too well. Oh, it's a grueling process. Usually you type it up and it's like 200 pages and everything else. It's not easy. You don't just walk into seminary and say, okay, I'm here to be holy. Doesn't happen that way, folks. This morning we're going to talk about this. 4 Gospels, and they all record the same thing about these guys following Jesus for no apparent reason. Tom Channer's mind wants to know, what is the apparent reason and what are we missing here when it comes to answering the call of Jesus Christ? Because he says, I will call each of you to my service. We're going to talk about that this morning. First, I want you to stand up a little bit. Put down